We are back at the George Preston Recreation Centre in the township of Langley, British Columbia. Draw 3 Saturday night action at the 2020 New Holland Canadian Junior Curling Championships. My name is Al Cameron from Curling Canada, and I'm joined tonight by a man who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to anyways. John Cullen. You know him, you love him from his various forms of social media, from his Magical Question Fun Time on the Curling Canada website, popular stand-up comedian, and oh yeah, pretty accomplished curler. A 6-time medalist at various provincial championships here in BC. And John, our pleasure to have you on the broadcast tonight. You were watching some of the action this afternoon. I know you're excited to be part of the Canadian Juniors this year.
I am. Thank you. Thanks, Al. Thanks for having me. This is great. I enjoyed a great win by my home province of British Columbia this afternoon. Fantastic to see the boys get one win on the board. And I also appreciate you talking about my medals, but not mentioning what color they are. Very, very appreciative.
Hey, you've got medals. You've accomplished something, my friend.
You know what they say, someone has to come second, and usually it's me.
So we've got a great game here tonight. Two very strong teams. Northern Ontario from Sudbury, Curl Sudbury, skipped by Kira Brunton, and the Nova Scotia team from Halifax. And it's going to be a very interesting game. Nova Scotia comes in with a 1-0 record, skipped, of course, by Taylor Stevens. The Northern Ontario team, meanwhile, having lost its opener this afternoon against Quebec, and it will be Nova Scotia with last rock. And John, if we've learned anything about the juniors, the New Holland Canadian Juniors over the last few years, we should expect some fairly wide open curling in the first couple ends.
Yeah, that's fair. I think first day, you always want to get a sense of what the ice is doing, obviously, and early on especially, you want to see maybe it quickened up throughout the day. We were talking before the game. The opening ceremonies were held before the game tonight, so you had every team in here on the ice sheets. There's obviously crowds in the rink. The heaters are on here. So sometimes you do see a shift in the draw weight from the afternoon to the evening draw, and certainly from the morning draw to the evening draw. So I'm not surprised to see teams looking to play it open early just to kind of get a feel for the ice and see how it's going.
So we'll run down the lineups for both of these teams. The Nova Scotia champs from the Halifax Curling Club. The skip is Taylor Stevens. The vice skip is Lindsay Burgess. Second, Kate Callahan. Lead, Kate Fitzgerald. We'll have fun keeping those in track.
Yeah, Kate and Kate. We were told that on their team, they go by K-Kate and C-Kate. They start with K and C.
Kate, of course. Kate, well, of course. I say that like everybody will know.
Yeah, of course. Everyone knows Kate Callahan, the second of the Nova Scotia U20 curling team.
And Kate Fitzgerald, the lead. And their coach, very familiar name to people who've tracked the Scotties Tournament of Hearts over the years, Mary Matatall, coaching this team.
A great name.
Yeah, very.
Love an alliterative name. Matatall just sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. She's played in a number of Scotties, and we were talking to her before the game, John, and she said this is a special team and Mary's been asked to coach a number of times over the years, and it took a special team to convince her to don those coaching jackets.
She did say that. I was there. She said the team is magic, Al. So the team's got a nice magic, and I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that tonight. I know that. You know, obviously you've been around a lot of these championships. You never want to start 0-2. So you know that Northern Ontario is going to be bringing a really good game tonight, and you know that Nova Scotia is going to want to be up for that. So I'm excited to see some of this magic.
Northern Ontario from Curl Sudbury. The skip is Kira Brunton. The vice skip, Lindsay Dubé. The second, Calissa Daly. The lead, Jessica Leonard, and their coach, Steve Acorn. And both of these teams have competed a great deal in various levels. This Northern Ontario team has some under-18 success at the under-18 championships. And, of course, Lindsay Burgess on that Nova Scotia team, a former world junior champion, playing with Caitlin Jones a couple years ago, and her cousin Carly, who is in these championships but playing for Manitoba. In fact, right on the sheet next to them, playing for Mackenzie Zacharias.
It's going to be weird when they age out and there's no more Burgesses at the Canadian Juniors. Feels like they've been here forever.
I think there's probably still a few Burgesses left in Nova Scotia.
Probably. Is that a common last name there? I don't know.
Pretty common.
Okay, well then take back everything I said.
So as suspected, it is an open end. Like you said, John, a matter of making some shots, getting that comfort level. And I know this Northern Ontario team came in with some high expectations. Came off the ice a little disappointed after this morning. They were playing Quebec, had a shot for the win. They were down 2 playing the 10th end. They had a shot for the win. and it jammed and gave Quebec the win. They were had a shot for 3, not an easy shot, but just a hair inside, and that gave the win to Quebec. So, like you say, Northern Ontario really needs to get into that win column right away.
Well, I think if you lose in that way, it's obviously disappointing, but you probably come into this game feeling like, okay, we had a good game, we were in it, we were there, we had the shot to win. That helps. You know, when you don't want to go 0-2, if the 0-1 was particularly egregious, sometimes it's harder, you know. You think, oh, a tough loss, but I actually find, for me, if it's a close game, you still feel good. You still feel like, oh, we probably did a lot of things right, and it's a little bit easier to come back on the rink than if you make your way all the way to the Canadian juniors and you get blown off the sheet in your first game, and then you start to go, you know, what happened here?
Yeah, that's a great point, and they did play a very, very good 10th end to set themselves up for that 3 as well. So that's the positive that I suspect Coach Steve Acorn was focusing on in their debrief after a game. Nova Scotia, meanwhile, they won their opener 9-7 over New Brunswick's Melody Forsyth. It was 7-all going into the 10th end, and Nova Scotia did crack that winning deuce after giving up a stolen deuce in the 9th.
Ooh. Ooh la la. All right, well, that sounds good. I'm in for a high-scoring game. I don't know about you, but I'd love to see some great shot making and some high scores.
I'm understanding that the over-under was set at 14.5.
14.5.
Yeah.
Who sets the odds for the juniors? I didn't know Bodog was out here setting the odds for this. I'll take the over just for fun.
I think, yeah, I'd probably take that bet, but just to make it interesting, I'll take the under.
All right, sounds good.
Good crowd here in the township of Langley.
Great crowd. Do you think they're going to be ringing those cowbells all game?
I suspect there will be some.
Oh, boy.
And there's the odd vuvuzela in here, too.
Is there actually? We haven't banned them?
No.
Oh, man, you got to take a page out of the South African World Cups book and ban those bad boys. Ridiculous. I will say, Al, I have been obviously watching this game. We're not just talking about nothing here. And there's been quite a few rollouts so far, which has been interesting. A lot of open hits and a lot of rollouts, which is, you know, again, just trying to feel out the ice. But at the same time, it's also giving both teams an opportunity to maybe nail down draw weight when they might not have been expecting to. So that could lead to maybe the game opening up earlier than we expected.
Well, I think you're right, John, when you mentioned that the ceremonies were in here and it's a bigger crowd tonight. I think the ice will be a little bit different from when they practiced here yesterday. Every team here got to practice on all the sheets here in the George Preston Rec Center Arena, as well as at the Langley Curling Center, which is under the same roof, just 50 meters behind us or so. But that's one of the hallmarks of a good curling team, too, is to adjust. But there is a big miss.
Well, the game plan's about to adjust right here, speaking of adjusting. Northern Ontario without Hammer. It's going to look to put a guard up here, and Nova Scotia's going to get themselves into an end here.
Very release-sensitive ice, John, and people say that all the time, but as a competitor, what does that actually mean, release-sensitive?
Essentially, what it means is that you have to throw it good. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but sometimes when you know, on ice that, you know, we say is maybe a little more forgiving, that's a term you hear sometimes. Essentially, that means that if you're maybe a little bit, you're popping out your release a little bit, or maybe you're getting a little bit cute with your release, you know, usually it refers to the fact that you can still make your shots. Whereas if the ice is a little bit more, as we say, release sensitive, it just means that if you're not releasing the rock really true, the ice is going to pick up on that, almost like the ice got a personality of its own, and it's going to affect the way the rock travels. So if you're letting it go a little bit positive, it's going to stay straighter. And what we saw here with Burgess's shot there, you know, if you come over top of it, if you're a little snug, it'll over curl, and that's what happened to hers. But Nova Scotia's got a chance to get out of it here, Al.
Yeah, that was a little deep, and the double takeout is being called for Taylor Stevens.
Most of the draws we've seen so far have slid a little deep, and you were saying this afternoon the hog-to-hog draw time was around 14 seconds, and we were timing in practice, and it was looking a little bit more like 14.3, 14.5, and so that's probably what you're seeing here is the shots are sliding a little further than expected.
Calling the audible here, but I think it is going to jam.
If you're Nova Scotia, you don't feel too terrible about that because now the one is in play. If Northern Ontario makes that guard on their first one, then you're possibly looking at a steal, or you know you're going to have to make a pretty good shot to maybe get your one. Whereas now it's wide open. Yes, you might be facing two, but you're going to have an open shot to get your one here. Which in the first end, you don't mind.
Well, we were talking about that with Bill Sherhart this afternoon, kind of the mindset of accepting that one is not a terrible thing in the first end.
Absolutely. It's a 10-end game, and now with the 5 rock rule, I mean, you got all game to make it happen.
And his suggestion is, well, if you stole that one, how happy would you be? You're one up. So either way, a 1-point lead is better than a 1-point deficit.
That's what I would always tell myself, if we gave up points, I'd be like, oh, that's fine. It's just like a steal, But then when they keep scoring points, it's not very good.
So as you suggested, this will be the open hit to score a single and give Nova Scotia the early lead. Taylor Stevens, she's represented Nova Scotia before, but never at the New Holland Canadian Juniors. She played at the Under-18 Championships last year at Sherwood Park, finished 2 and 4, playing vice skip for Callie Moore, and also won a bronze medal with the same team at the Canada Winter Games in Red Deer last year. So she's been on the podium. No to panic here.
Hard! Right up! Hard, right to a key! Hard, 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 hard! Sit down.
And that is going to roll too far. And that will give Northern Ontario the stolen point to open this game. 1-0 lead for Northern Ontario in this. Never too early to say it, but as close to a must-win as you're going to find at this stage of the New Holland Canadian Juniors.
Yeah, absolutely. Good start for Northern Ontario. Capitalized on that miss. Made a couple good shots. Forced Taylor Stevens into a hit-and-stick situation on her last. It's funny, we were talking about release sensitive, and on Taylor's first one, looked like she was maybe a little positive on it. It hung out longer than they were expecting, and I did notice on that one, looked like she came over it just a little bit. That gets in your mind, especially when the ice is release sensitive like this. And especially as a skip, you're always thinking, okay, I got to keep my releases exactly where I need them to be. And it just looked to me like that one, she was maybe a little snug on the broom, and that's obviously what happened.
Well, and you can throw as many practice rocks as you want. And I know both these teams practiced an awful lot before they got here to the township of Langley. But practicing on club ice compared to practicing on an arena ice, it's two different animals. And, the preparation only goes so far when you're playing this kind of ice for the first time.
Yeah, we definitely... We just had a little visitor here in the broadcast booth. Yeah, I was noticing that today in the BC Ontario game. And I was thinking that to myself, actually. It is a real adjustment when you're on arena ice, and especially for teams like this that probably, a lot of them, unless they've had experience at national championships before, aren't playing on arena ice very often, and it is a lot different. And that's something that I know, as a curler myself who, I was on tour but was not playing in the Grand Slam, so most of our events were played in curling clubs, and then our provincials were in an arena. And it is a big adjustment, and it does take a couple days to get used to it. And it tends to end up being the story sometimes that, it's whichever teams can get acclimated to the ice earlier. And it is a learning curve for these juniors who don't play on arena ice most of the time, and we'll probably see some mistakes because of that.
And I suspect that's where the experience of someone like Lindsay Burgess, who has had a great deal of experience, gold medal obviously at the New Holland Canadian Juniors in 2018 at Shawinigan, and then won a bronze medal last year in Prince Albert, that really does come into play for a team such as Nova Scotia. But then again, many of these players on Northern Ontario also have played at this event. So no shortage of experience, but still, it's an annual thing, and you tend to forget. And like you say, it takes a couple games to adjust.
Well, and that's where for Nova Scotia, having a coach like Mary Matatal really comes into play. You know, you've got someone with a ton of experience at the absolute top pinnacle levels of the game who's going to be having these girls really ready for that when they get here. You know, and it is a mindset. And, you know, as much as you talk about it, you really do have to remind yourself almost every shot to really release the rock true, make sure you're getting the right amount of rotation on it, and to really be ready for how quick the ice is as well, which, as we've seen already tonight, it looks like it's playing quicker than it has for any of the other draws thus far.
We talked about Kira Brunton and her past experience. She's won 3 national championships. Canada Winter Games gold medal in 2015 at Prince George. U Sports Championship with skipping Laurentian University in 2019. Last season at Fredericton. Using these same rocks, by the way. This set of rocks was used at that championship.
Okay.
So she's got a little bit of a rock
So
book.
she's feeling good about that.
Inside knowledge there.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, skipped Northern Ontario to the gold medal at the 2017 Canadian Under-18 Championship. So definitely some experience.
Yeah, that's quite a roster for Kira Brunton. It's impressive. I don't know why I said roster. That's not the right word.
Resume. I think that's the word you're looking for.
That's the word.
Yeah.
The thing is, Al, when words start with R, tough. Gets confusing.
Lindsay Dubé, she's going to Laurentian University, but this is her first time representing Northern Ontario. She played for Ontario in both 2018 and 2017 New Holland Canadian Juniors. She won a silver medal with Haley Armstrong in 2017 in Victoria.
So she's probably feeling good too, because she previously represented Ontario, whose logo is a couple of leafs. And now she's here for Northern Ontario representing the mighty creature, the moose. She probably just feels a little bit additionally strong.
That is going to slip through the ring. So Nova Scotia not quite tight yet, not quite comfortable on this ice. And Northern Ontario will take the opportunity to remove that guard.
Yeah, you've already got a lead. You stole in the first end. Corner guard's not really doing much for you if you don't have hammer. So I like the call here. And it's always demoralizing, you know, if you miss a shot and then the other team takes the opportunity to get rid of your guard. It's just great. I don't mind that either. Rolls over a little bit for a center, get a little bit of action. You know, Nova Scotia's been a little bit heavy on their draws so far, so I certainly don't mind having stuff in front of the house.
We have received an official complaint about your reference to the Ontario Leaf.
That was quick.
It is, in fact, a trillium.
It means nothing to me, Al.
My goodness.
Is a trillium a flower?
John.cullen@gmail.com. John.cullen@gmail.com. Direct your complaints.
That's not my email. Don't send it. Don't send anything to me there. You can tweet at me if you want, but don't email me.
Nova Scotia trying to get one into the rings behind that protection offered by the Northern Ontario Stone, but just a little light, and that means it's tight. And a chance now for Northern Ontario to ramp up a little more pressure.
Absolutely. Again, it's just that little bit of draw weight, the speed increasing. You know, if you're watching, you're probably thinking, 14 seconds hog to hog versus 14.3 or 14.5 doesn't feel like a lot, but when you're curling, you know, you really feel that difference. And especially when you're playing the front end positions, you notice the first one goes through the house. Just so natural to overcorrect that a little bit and to come up a little light on your next one. But at the same time, you're getting those draws in early, which is nice. You know, you get that feel for draw weight as a front end player, and hopefully now, you know, they're feeling a little bit more confident.
That's interesting you note that, because I thought that was a key element of this afternoon's game with BC playing Ontario, is that the first half of that game, BC was struggling with draw weight, but they were throwing lots of draws. And we saw, especially in that 9th and 10th ends, that Hayato Sato made some great draws, and they were very comfortable with them, and it paid off.
Hard! Hard!
Trying the short little run back.
Hard roll, hard roll.
Well, make the double for fun.
Why not? Good shot. Good shot by Lindsay. But Northern Ontario got a chance to come around the center now.
15-5. Yeah, that's okay.
So oftentimes they'll use those numbers. Any idea if how they're timing it, John, based on that kind of number?
Well, 15-5 sounds hog to hog, and that sounds very quick.
It sure does.
Very quick. I mean, we timed them in warm-up at about 14-5, so that's a full second difference. So if it truly is 15-5, I feel pretty comfortable saying that this would be the quickest ice that either of these teams would have played on this year. So we're going to see some adjustments to draw weight that are going to happen here.
And maybe 15-5 wasn't accurate if they got the exact time on that, because that came up short.
Yeah, I mean, 15-5 could be accurate. I should start timing some rocks up here myself so I can figure it out. But the 15-5, it could be easily 15-5 to T-line. But I think, again, like I say, a lot of these, when you're not playing on arena ice, you're almost never going to play in a club where it'd be 15-5. So as a thrower, if you hear 15-5, you think, oh my gosh.
I better not push out of the half.
You're like, I got to throw it lighter than I've ever thrown a rock in my whole life. And that's probably why you see Northern Ontario coming up a little light there.
Goodbye.
Meanwhile, this looks tasty.
This looks pretty good from Lindsay. It looks real good.
Yep. 2 veteran shots by Lindsay Burgess that turns this end around.
And realize
Lindsay's wearing that knee brace.
Yeah, what is up with that?
Just noticed that.
It's pretty giant. I noticed it a while ago, but I didn't know what it was for. I mean,
I'm going to guess she has
injury.
a knee problem.
Yeah.
Good luck charm.
Man, this is an easy game. I just realized both of the thirds are called Lindsay, and Nova Scotia has 2 people named Kate. So if I just say Lindsay or Kate, I probably got it right.
It's that kind of professional insight.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yep.
That's why you bring me in. This type of name analysis. Can't get it anywhere else.
Well, we're also going to be calling upon your fashion expertise too. John has made quite an impact in assessing various uniforms for teams playing on tour this year on his social media channels.
That's right.
There's some, and that Northern Ontario moose does look delightful.
Incredible.
Yep.
Huge shot for Kira here. This is an end saver right now.
Mine's good.
You don't make this, you're looking at 2 here at minimum.
That's a tight little port there too. She's throwing the clockwise rotation, and this looks tight.
Hard! 14-5.
Yeah, that's
That sounds like a better number. I think the weight was pretty close, John.
weight looked really close. Just didn't quite have the line, and this is where, you know, it's a really unfortunate for Kira that she racked on the middle rock, because you've staggered the center guards, and if Taylor's able to put one behind here, you're in big trouble not to give up 3. Critical miss there. On that one, you'd always, if you're going to rack off one of them, you want to rack off the outside one, roll into the middle.
We were talking about the concept of tolerance earlier today, and there's an example of where the team should be on the same page in discussing what's the tolerant miss, where do we want to miss to get something out of this shot.
I think with me broadcasting all week, we're going to be talking about tolerance quite a bit.
Line's good. Line's good, you guys. Hard. Line's really good, guys.
Front end is working at this.
Yeah, this looks really
Hey,
good.
switch.
Really good.
Hard. Whoa.
Great shot.
The 2 Kates really coming through on these last 2 shots, and boy, is this end turned around in a hurry, John.
It really did. I mean, you know, Northern Ontario, they went to peel the guard like 4 rocks ago. They were looking quite solid, and now they've got themselves into a situation where they're throwing a double run back, and they're running back a Nova Scotia rock to try and salvage a blank here.
Set up wonderfully too by 2 great shots by Lindsay Burgess. that turned the end around, followed by this nice draw from Taylor.
Yeah, big shot here.
Pretty good.
Very good, yeah. Very good shot. I mean, pretty much once Lindsay sinks that draw, you're just hoping to give up 2 here.
See the replay here on the action on that.
Yeah, good shot.
Cleared the front guard and 2 yellows off the rings and behind the tee line, leaving that rock behind the tee line. So there might be a chance. Taylor's going to, I'm thinking, try and draw in there for second shot. Put the pressure on Kira Brunton for her last stone.
Nova Scotia has last rock, Al. This is the last rock right now. Taylor's drawing for 2.
Pardon me. There we go.
It's okay. That's why I'm here.
They changed. I'm good for one of those a game, by the way.
It's all good. You used it early.
Yep.
So good luck the rest of the way.
Little water.
Ooh, this looks a little light. Nope, it's okay.
Easy. It's really.
We're watching from the side view, so for a second there, I was like, oh.
Full 8.
No, this is all there, easy.
Good throw.
It's a good shot. And nice end by Nova Scotia.
And, you know, you talk about confidence being such a key element of this game. And Nova Scotia, I think, probably struggling with confidence after that first end because it was a sloppy end. And, boy, that back end really got some confidence back with the 4 terrific made shots.
Absolutely. And sometimes that's what it's all about. You just have to, you know, the start of the end, it's not like they were in trouble early. It just looked like they weren't really getting an end built up the way they wanted to. And then all of a sudden, kind of couple half misses from Northern Ontario, it sort of turns on a dime, and Nova Scotia was able to capitalize. Great draw by Lindsay Burgess to set it up, and a couple nice shots from Taylor Stevens to put 2 on the board. But good shot by Kira Brunton, too.
We'll just say goodbye to a couple of Olympic bronze medalists.
Casual.
Yeah, Georgina Wheatcroft, Diane DeZura here watching the game. I believe their kids were flag bearers during the opening ceremonies tonight. And
the 4K girls.
Congratulations to them. They've qualified for the BC Winter Games up in Fort St. John.
Absolutely.
Later this season. So,
and that's what you want when you're a young curler. If you can get a trip to Fort St. John, you take it.
So we're underway in the third end. 2-1 lead for Nova Scotia.
You know, we're seeing the teams are obviously willing to get a little bit more offensive now. It seems like both teams have a little bit more of a handle on draw weight, and of course Nova Scotia is going to really feel that way. Not a surprise to see them put the center guard up.
Northern Ontario will try and get right behind that, but it's probably going to get a little deep. And, you know, that's a lot of fans will look at that and say it's in the 4-foot, great shot, but that's probably more of a benefit to Nova Scotia than it is Northern Ontario, John.
Yeah, Nova Scotia, you know, it's far enough back. And it's too early in the end. You're probably not looking to freeze here. You're probably just looking to get in the top 4. You know, there's a couple different schools of thought on this, Al. I think with the 5-rock rule now, you know, going behind the tee line isn't as dangerous as it used to be. I think there's a feeling among a lot of players that, you know, you go a little bit behind the tee line and it kind of encourages the action. You know, it puts more pressure on your skip, but it can allow for bigger scoring ends by starting the end this way as opposed to being in front of the tee line.
Well, that was a conversation that Bill brought up, too. A lot of times, you know, that draw to the kind of the back quarter of the rings to begin and end is actually puts a lot of pressure on.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to take advantage of opportunities, and Nova Scotia just a little bit heavy with that last stone. So Northern Ontario trying to get second rock in there. No brushes being applied to this, though.
That's not bad. A little heavy from Jessica Leonard, but again, kind of same thing we talked about. I mean, you know, obviously, ideally, you don't want to have both of your rocks behind the tee line in this situation, but for Northern Ontario, could end up encouraging some offense. Looks like Nova Scotia's trying to move one of them out of the rings here, though. This looks like ice for a hit.
You know, that ability to manipulate your takeout weight, such a crucial skill set to have, especially at the junior level. You don't have to throw everything a million miles an hour, obviously. You want to be able to manipulate that stone, keep it in play, and I thought that was pretty good weight that she threw at that, John.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something that junior teams are really getting so much better at in comparison to when I played juniors, which, you know, of course, was not that long ago, but getting more long every minute. But,
they had the 8mm film for your...
Yeah, definitely. But that's the thing, you know, these teams, they all grow up now. They see all the Grand Slams being played on arena ice. They see all the top teams playing on this all the time, and they see how the top teams all use this softer weight, this more controlled weight to make hits. And on arena ice, when you have more curl, it's easier to make shots, especially hits, and it's really nice to see the teams using that weight properly. It's not something you would have seen even 10 years ago at this level.
Heavens no, yeah.
And I think teams practice it too, which I think is the important thing, right? You'd watch these junior championships and you'd see teams who had been playing on club ice all year, are used to throwing normal for all of their hits, you know, throwing a lot of weight, more than they have to. And, you know, now it's teams are even practicing it at the club level where it's maybe not as effective, but you know that the goal is to end up here on the arena ice and to be ready for that. Big run back here coming for Kate.
Looks close.
It's a good shot.
Yep. Northern Ontario sitting shot stone at the back button. Alyssa Daly will play the counterclockwise rotation. Right-hander's out turn. See if she can get in there for second shot.
Should be a hair light.
Look at you front ender. Had that called.
Well, I'm starting to time the rocks now, so it's looking like T-line is about 15 seconds hog to hog, and that one came in at about 15.5. So again, it's like I said earlier, this is going to be pretty close to, if not the fastest ice that these curlers would have played on this year. So that's going to be an adjustment for all of them, and you're going to see shots perhaps not ending up exactly where they want them to, just trying to get adjusted to that, the quickness of the ice.
And that's a scary thing for a player too, because you just you don't think you can physically throw it light enough.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's what we saw last end a little bit. I mean, that was quite hot from Lindsay Burgess there. I got that at a 13.8. So again, she made a great draw last end and then is heavy here. And so, again, I think that's just the adjustment to it. It's, you know, you have to get more and more reps to get used to it. And even though you can make a perfect draw last end, she was perfect top four around that guard. She comes heavy there, and it's just getting used to, okay, yeah, every rock is this light. You know, I played lead for a very long time, and it does. Every shot, you got to sit in the hack and think to yourself, okay, I'm throwing this light, and it does take a bit to get used to.
Well, and that's where this game can be so exhausting, as physically demanding as it can be for front enders, particularly. the mental demands of concentrating like that, especially over a 10-end game and over a 9-day championship. By the end of it, it's you're ready for a break.
Absolutely. I'm ready for a break, and it's only N3. And I'm not playing either. A nice shot there from Lindsay Dubé. It looks like it's wide open, so Nova Scotia's going to have a chance to hit, but it's a tough double, and even if they make the double, you're going to have a shot to lie to or to come back around the guards at the top. So
definitely some catchers there too, John. That
absolutely
could come in play.
Yeah, Northern Ontario looking good so far.
Curl! Hard! Whoa. Oh!
Well, got rid of one of them. That's not a terrible result, although it's going to be tricky, and it's still rock in hand for Northern Ontario, sitting shot. So, and that is more buried than it was before.
And if you're Nova Scotia, you're just petrified of that rock in the top 8 at the top of the house there, because you know that at any point Northern Ontario can decide to hit yours in the 8-foot. And I think this call shows a lot of maturity from Kira Brunton with Lindsay Dubé's second here, because I think sometimes the temptation here would be to hit that yellow one in the 8-foot and lie 3. It's a pretty easy double, but she can see that she's got a lot of great cover here, and if you get this one in the top 4, you're looking really good for multiples here.
Just a little bit light.
But again, another catcher. This is where, if you're Nova Scotia, this is a shot here for Taylor Stevens. This is a huge shot. This is almost a must make, because now they've got staggered guards at the top. So the rock in the 4-foot is almost completely protected. So I think you see here, if Taylor misses this one, you might see Kira Brunton chase that yellow in the 8-foot to lie 4, and then Taylor's going to have to make just a perfect freeze on her last one. So this is a big shot for Taylor. She doesn't have to make it perfect. You don't have to get it right on top of the red, but somewhere in that path leading on to the top of the red, so that if Northern Ontario tried to remove it, it would hit their own in the 4-foot.
And give yourself a chance at the end of the end as well on your second shot too.
Absolutely.
So setting something up here.
Now this is more a line shot than a weight shot. You just never want to be heavy here.
Always curl.
Can't go.
This might be a little heavy. That's a 14-7.
Okay.
And that's where we talk about that tolerance, Al, because really, as long as you're in the house, if you're light anywhere on that path, if you're in the 12-foot, the 8-foot, you're likely holding Northern Ontario to a 1, maybe a 2 at maximum. But you come heavy there, and you've given Northern Ontario a real opportunity here to either come on top of that red, or even if you follow the same path down and just lie 2 on top of those yellows at the back, Taylor Stevens is going to have to make a really good freeze. The one thing Taylor Stevens got lucky on is that the yellow stuck in the back for second shot. So, or I guess third shot, I should say. But for Nova Scotia to be lying second and third is good in this situation. If that goes any deeper into the 12-foot, Northern Ontario's just got dollar signs lighting up in their eyes.
Kira Brunton, one of 2 members of this Northern Ontario team to have won Curling Canada Foundation for the Love of Curling scholarships. Kira Brunton was a recipient in 2017. Lindsay Dubé was a recipient in 2018. Throughout the course of these championships, we'll tell you about the other winners. There are 10 recipients of the Curling Canada Foundation for the Love of Curling scholarship playing this year.
You don't have to be smart to curl, but it helps.
It definitely helps. The think they would have liked to have held that in there for second shot.
Absolutely right. As it stands, that shot doesn't really help Northern Ontario because that Nova Scotia one stays for second shot in the back 8, and it's really tough to get to. I think that, yeah, again, it's a tolerance. You're always wanting to be rolling in on that one if you're Kira Brunton.
So now a big opportunity for Taylor to get out of jail here. If she can make the freeze or even come on top of that anywhere in the 4-foot, it's a real tough deuce for Northern Ontario.
And again, this is the same line shot, and now with it being your last shot, you can even be outside of the house here. If you're outside of the house, it leaves the 8-foot open for a draw for 2, but if you're in the top 8 here, you're really putting the pressure on Kira Brunton to make it.
And probably forcing her to play the other turn, which she hadn't played yet this end, if not this game. So
absolutely.
Hard. Line's good. Line's really good.
This looks close.
Easy. No bounce. No bounce.
That's a great shot.
That is golden. What a shot. 2 ends in a row where the back end has had to bail this team out.
I mean, in this case, the back end had to bail themselves out.
Yeah.
But yes, huge shot from Taylor Stevens. And that was a shot that Kira could have played on her first one, and that's probably what the debate was between her and Lindsay. You know, you hit the outside one, if you get rid of all the yellows, or you can even move that yellow in the back, you know, in lie 3 or 4, you're putting a ton of pressure on Taylor, but she's always going to have this freeze to get out at the end. And so with Kira's first, she could have just taken the same shot that Taylor did. I mean, just imagine that's a red rock on top of there, and
get there first.
Get there first, and Taylor's got a lot of trouble. But, you know, Kira probably also knows she's always going to have this in-turn here for a second point. But this is a really tough shot. A lot of pressure on the sweepers here.
Different path here, so a little bit of a guess. They would have thrown this in practice, of course, but
yeah, the one thing with arena ice, especially these days, Al, the paths stay pretty consistent. This should be a little on the heavy side.
Yeah, you heard them say a little heavy. But it is a single point for Northern Ontario. And we will have a 2-2 tie going into the third end. Draw 3 of the 2020 New Holland Canadian Junior Men's and Women's Curling Championships here in the township of Langley, British Columbia. Normally you wouldn't say winter wonderland of British Columbia, John, but
never.
Wow, that's all I'll say. Although, as we were saying this afternoon, the entire city of St. John's, Newfoundland is looking at this and laughing, saying, "You want snow? We got snow."
Yeah, no kidding. Good thing it wasn't in St. John's. It wouldn't be happening. They'd be curling on the runway. Yeah, that's a big end there for both teams. I think Nova Scotia will feel pretty good that they got out of that only getting 1. You know, it's a rare end where a score is actually a bit of a momentum killer for Northern Ontario, because they're looking at 2 or even 3 for most of the end. And then with 1 shot, Taylor Stevens is able to get Nova Scotia out of it. So some momentum here for Nova Scotia, and they've got the hammer back now.
Just back T-line, and Nova Scotia will call for that corner guard. Ignore the rock in the rings. See what they can get going offensively here. What's the closest you ever got to playing in a juniors, John?
Nowhere close.
Okay.
Yeah, juniors wasn't great for me, Al. Thanks for bringing it up.
The wound is still fresh, eh?
Yeah, it never goes away. That's the one thing I will say to every team that doesn't win here this week. It'll never feel good.
And with that note of optimism and positivity,
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, juniors is crazy. I never even made junior provincials, actually. I don't know why. Well, I wasn't very good. I mean, that's part of it. But yeah, it was just one of those things. BC juniors was pretty competitive for quite a while there, and never made it happen, unfortunately. But then went to 10 men's provincials in a row, so I guess that's worth something.
and as noted in our pregame discussion with Jordan and Tyler Tardy, you do have a good career record against Tyler Tardy.
And I'm holding on to that. I'm holding on to that forever, Al. That's going to be the only thing I've got when I'm done this. I'll be looking at my silver medals and my bronze medals, but I'll really be thinking to myself, oh, multiple-time world champion Tyler Tardy, I'm 6-1 lifetime against him.
He was 11, 12, 13 at the time, or?
And it, you know what they say, Al, age is just a number, so.
Corner guard was made, and Northern Ontario follows with the short center. So has the looks of an intriguing end already.
Absolutely. Love that Nova Scotia, again, that's that momentum swing. You know, they're feeling a little more comfortable with draw weight now, playing the corner, even though Northern Ontario put their first in the house, and looks like we're going to have ourselves an end here.
Working hard to get this by. Good scrub by that combination of Lindsay Burgess and Kate there.
Good shot from C. Kate right there. Kate Fitzgerald. And good scrub, too, I have to say. It was smartly brushed. They didn't get by that top one by a lot. Nice shot. Northern Ontario going to have to follow here. Jessica Daly.
John will take a look around the other games being played here tonight in the arena at George Preston Rec Center. Over on sheet A, it's a women's game. BC's Kayla Bushy, having just stolen a single point to take a 3-2 lead on Saskatchewan.
As a British Columbian, you can only say that you love to see it, Al.
Ashley Teveno's team from Saskatoon. Kayla Bushy with the steal to take a 3-2 lead. On sheet B, it's another BC Saskatchewan game. The men's teams, Ryland Kleider of Saskatchewan has a 2-1 lead playing the fourth end against BC number 2, the Johnson Towel Rink, and that is playing the fourth end, Saskatchewan with the hammer.
It's about time our province got recognized, Al. I have to say, given us 2 teams at the Nationals, I have to say it's about time. Love to see it.
Well, the last few years have been pretty soft for BC junior men's curling, so maybe they're going to give them a chance here, right?
Well, and that's nice. It's nice to see. You know, we haven't had the success we've wanted to, so it's nice to see them give us two cracks at it.
And we say that in jest, of course. The BC youth program has done amazing things. Both teams at last year's Canadian Juniors on the podium. Tyler Tardy coming out on top, and the girls team also making the national final, and Curl BC won the Curling Canada Foundation Cup based on its results at the Canadian Juniors as well as the Under-18 Championships. So great things are happening in youth curling here in the province of British Columbia. Sheet C, you've got New Brunswick playing Prince Edward Island. And that New Brunswick team skipped by KG veteran Liam Marine out of the Thistle St. Andrews Club in St. John. New Brunswick taking a 2-1 lead with a steal of 1 in the third end against Prince Edward Island. And that Tyler Smith back again, skipping Prince Edward Island. He had a big win against Manitoba in his opener this morning, pardon me. That PEI team coming from the Montague Curling Club. We're watching sheet D here, of course, and on sheet E, you've got the Manitoba team, skipped by Mackenzie Zacharias from Altona, taking a 4-0 lead on Nunavut's Sadie Pinkson. Manitoba taking 4 in the second end. They're playing in the fourth end right now.
It's a good thing there's no Capulet Curling Club here. We have a lot of blood on our hands, Al.
I get it. I see you working a nice little Shakespeare reference there.
Listen, it's just a joke for the Shakespeare fans out there watching this late night. I know there's lots.
And 2 sheets in play over at the Langley Curling Center. Got a men's game, Alberta, looking to get into the win column. That's Ryan Jacques' team from the Saville Center. That's part of that great Rob Krebs coached U of A program. They have a 2-1 lead on the Northwest Territories. Sawyer Kaiser. 2-1 lead going into the third end. The Territories with the hammer.
Ironically, we're checking in on all the other scores as our game gets busy right here. It's a bit of a jumbled house here, but Northern Ontario looking pretty good. Nova Scotia's shot here, but of course Northern Ontario doesn't have hammer, so looking pretty solid here with three all around the 4-foot and in control of the top of the rings here. Looks like Kira Brunton's called maybe a tap up here.
Have to work to get that by, and I think it will rub off the Nova Scotia stone.
I was a little bit surprised to see Northern Ontario not just throw another guard. I think at this point you don't mind the force to 1. And now you've perhaps given Nova Scotia a bit of an out here, but you know that Nova Scotia rock looks like it could disappear at any time. So Taylor Stevens is going to have to think how she can protect it here, and she might even replace the guard herself.
Might be able to.
And she sees what you're seeing too,
I think. We also lose this, but. Okay, if you like it. Do you see anything else? Do you see anything else? I don't hate the hit and roll off the top right, but I don't know what that does for us. I don't think, yeah. Just 9-5.
So it looks like Taylor's okay with losing her shot rock here in the center, which that's what the Northern Ontario miss has allowed here by moving that rock off of the center. Losing their own rock here isn't as dangerous for Nova Scotia because they've got a clear path to the 4-foot now. So I think she doesn't mind losing this one off of the center, hopefully opening it up a bit and maybe bringing the play. They've got 2 corner guards, so.
Really gotta go, Kate. Hard! Whoa, whoa! Yep. Hard!
Well,
good audible called by Taylor
That really
Stevens
was, wasn't
there.
it? Yep.
Make that thin double. That wasn't the shot called, but you don't mind that because, yeah, now Kier is recognizing, okay, we've got some Nova Scotia rocks in some dangerous places. We maybe have to make some hits here. So a good plan B, sometimes better than a plan A, Al, we always say. That's what they would say after I shot anyway.
So Northern Ontario will make a play at that shot stone that was, or its 4th shot, I guess, but chance to roll into play here too. Something good could happen here. That'll just stay there.
Yeah, you probably don't want to roll in there, Al. If you roll in, you're likely going a little bit behind the yellow rock and leaving Nova Scotia a pocket. But the other thing here that they've done is they've left Nova Scotia a double here. And if they get really lucky, Lindsay Burgess chips their yellow a little bit and could possibly remove all 3 Northern Ontario stones here.
Curl!
Trying to make it curl.
Hard, Kate! Hard, Kate, you got it! Hard!
Oh,
Okay.
just rolled underneath.
That was an unfortunate result because now Kira Brunton can just come down and sit right on top of that yellow or even push it back a smidge, and now you've all of a sudden you've maybe brought a steal into play here.
This one stays, obviously, but. Sure. Unless it's just like the freeze. We're a little light, that's okay. We can bump it a hair, that's okay. Okay.
They had a few options there, John.
Well, there's a
Just
couple
like
things you can
lightweight?
do here. So and this is what I think they're going to do, is it looks like they're just going to come down and freeze on it. But one thing they were talking about is kind of playing hit weight and seeing if they could lose both the yellows. And so in that kind of scenario, you're sort of hoping that you get rid of both yellows and you force Nova Scotia to 1 because you'll have enough red rocks in the house to force it. But I just don't know that the double's there. It's possible, but you got to throw a ton of weight to get that back yellow to spill out of the house. And I think if you're Kira, she's been pretty solid on her draw weight so far, and you got a lot to work with here. You can tap this a little bit. You can even be a little bit short. It's not bad. So a lot to work with here. I like the call. I think they settled on the right one.
Line's a little tight. You can go early. There. Yep.
It's where one of those shots where the communication piece is so important. This front end has to let
Hard.
Dubé know where this stone's going to end up.
Here's okay.
Might over curl.
Over curling. Whoa. Okay.
Decent weight. but
Not terrible, but again, it's just that tolerance we've been talking about on that shot. Again, more of a line shot than a weight shot. You want to be in front of that yellow rock or even on the other side of it, because
Okay.
then you're losing their yellow if they try and play any hits
I
on
like
it.
that.
Whereas right now, Taylor's got a chance to come in here, just gently nudge that red stone back, lie 2, and it's going to be Kira Brunton's going to have to throw a high hard one and try and get rid of a bunch.
just while we have an opportunity, we'll tell you the other game that's in progress right now. Ontario Sierra Sutherland
450.
from Ottawa jumping out to a 5-0 lead over Bailey Scoffin of the Yukon over at the Curling Center. It's a deuce in the first end and a stolen 3 in the second for Ontario. 5-0 play in the third.
I guess Scoffin is the Yukon's version of Burgess.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But they are,
But they're all related.
yes.
Yeah.
Where?
Yep. Over curling. Whoa.
This looks a little toasty to me.
Whoa.
Needs to curl.
That's
I heard-
15.
No
It's pretty
bounce.
close.
No bounce.
Oh, no bounce, no bounce. Okay.
There was a bounce there.
Yep. Yeah, I wonder if Taylor extended a little bit there, because the draw time wasn't too bad, but it came in there quite hot. And now Kira Brunton will have a chance to get rid of both yellows, and she'll just hope to hit this on the nose so that she's got 2 reds counting, possibly 3 counting first, second, third shot before Taylor throws her last one. The only thing you can't do here is over curl. You over curl this, you possibly leave their yellow in the forefoot, and you might spill your own 1 or 2 out and leave a scenario where Nova Scotia gets 2 or 3. I mean, you'd have to get really unlucky to give them a shot for 3. But
Oh, I've done that.
yeah, me too. That's why I don't skip.
Yep.
Well, here is Kira Brunton's final shot.
Hard.
They're working on this,
Yep.
trying to hold it, see if they can get 2 of those yellows out. Just like that. And sitting 3.
Really good shot from Kira Brunton there.
You saw those lively stones here too. Boy, that there's a lot of action.
Absolutely. I mean, Kira didn't throw it that hard. I mean, she threw it obviously hard enough to make the shot, but it's not, you think when you're thinking of moving multiple stones, I think a lot of us immediately think, okay, you got to really chuck it hard. And like you say, all the striking bands on these rocks and with how quick the arena ice is, you don't even have to chuck it too hard to get a lot of granite moving. Big shot for Taylor here, though, facing 3. She's got to stick her shooter.
This is where you're telling yourself just a nose hit, routine nose hit.
Absolutely.
Anything but, though. She didn't underthrow this, John.
Clean, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard. Clean.
Whoa, clean, clean.
It's a nice throw.
Good.
I thought she threw that really nice.
Yep.
Nice controlled weight again. Those are easy. You think, like you said, you got to think of it like a nose hit, but it is a double, and sometimes you can overthrow those, and I thought she looked really composed on that, as she has so far throughout these first 4 ends. Been some nice skip play in that end from Kira Brunton and Taylor Stevens, and Nova Scotia gets one back on the board.
So it is a 3-2 lead for Nova Scotia as we go into this 4th end. Saturday night at the 2020 New Holland Canadian Junior Men's and Women's Curling Championships here in the township of Langley, BC, the George Preston Rec Center.
Where else would you rather be, Al?
Not too many places, honestly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
This event has produced some pretty amazing champions over the years, obviously. Tyler Tardy the last few years, having and Mary Fay a couple years ago out of Nova Scotia. We talked about this Nova Scotia youth program. Nova Scotia teams have won women's medals at this event for the last 6 years, so some very good things happening out in Nova Scotia with youth curling as well.
But, Al, how many teams do they have here? Just one.
Just one, that is true.
What can we say?
Yeah, the facts speak for themselves.
They do. No, but it is, all joking aside, been an extremely impressive run from Nova Scotia. Obviously, fantastic coaching in the province, and I think, you know, we're seeing this in BC too. We've been very blessed the last few years to have some excellent players on both sides, and it really does make the teams better. And you're seeing that here this week. Now that Tyler Tardy has opted not to play his last year of juniors, you're seeing it with both Tao and Sato. You know, you're seeing teams where you go, okay, this is a team that's been playing Tyler Tardy a lot for the last 3 years, and you know, the rising tide lifts all boats. In Nova Scotia, they lift all blue noses, I think they say. And yeah, it's phenomenal. Once you start that program, you have the coaching, you have the resources to get the program started, especially at the youth level. It's amazing how much it raises the game of everybody else, and I think you're really seeing that here with these excellent programs. And that's not to say that there aren't excellent programs across the entire country, Al, because obviously there are. But from, you know, especially Nova Scotia being a smaller province, to have the run that they've had has been exceptional.
I think too, there's been some programs out there that have really kind of raised the access to these championship kind of level events, and even youth curling in general, grassroots, like the Rocks and Rings program, going into school gymnasiums and exposing kids to curling and getting them hooked on the sport. The U18 championships that were started in 2017 that give the chance for, you know, the younger teams to get some confidence rather than having to go to the U21s and, you know, take their lumps as young players. They can play at the U18 championship and feel like they're on a more level playing field. And then, of course, Curling Canada next year will introduce an under 15 national event as well. So another kind of avenue to develop young curlers for the 14 member associations in Canada.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, not to talk about my own curling career too much because it's not very remarkable, but you know, those were all resources that didn't exist when I played juniors, and I didn't play juniors that long ago. You know, I aged out of juniors in 2006, so just 13 years ago. And you talk about adding these championships and even things like Rocks and Rings. You know, and it's great too to see. You know, we're watching the sheet closest to us here. None of it is here, and it's. I was at the first junior championships that none of it was in. And just to see the growth in the last not even decade, just from that program alone, you know, you can really see what the addition of all these championships and all these resources is doing for the game in our country.
So again, we do have Rocks in play in our feature game, Northern Ontario playing Nova Scotia. It is a 3-2 lead for Nova Scotia.
Yeah, Nova Scotia having a nice start to this end. You got the two Kates getting it set up really well to the point where Northern Ontario is being forced to peel the rocks in front here. As Kate with a K, her first one was excellent behind that guard in the 4-foot, forcing Northern Ontario to bail a little early, but they didn't get both guards, and so Nova Scotia is going to put themselves in quite a power position here if Kate's able to make this one. Sorry, K Kate, not Kate with a K. K Kate and C Kate.
It's tough to keep track of those.
Too many Kates. My sister's name's Kate. It's a lot.
You'll soldier on, though, eh?
I will. I will do it for the love of the game.
This is looking tasty, John.
It's looking pretty good, yeah.
If they can get it past that center guard, did they lose it?
They did.
They did.
That was probably a made shot. They put the curl brush on a little bit early. C. Kate was asked to sweep by Taylor Stevens, thinking that they had quite a bit of room around that guard. And you notice, and a lot of people who are, maybe not following curling as much, might look a little bit different with a lot of the teams trying to make the rocks curl with the sweeping. And you see that there, most of the time when you have the sweeper who's against the turn of the curl, trying to make the rock curl on the inside of the rock, sometimes you do lose it. You get on it a little early, and that's what happened there with Nova Scotia's shot. Taylor Stevens saw a lot of room around the guard, and then as soon as Kate Fitzgerald got on it, it really started warping, and that does get affected more on arena ice than club ice too, which is another adjustment that these teams have to make, realizing that sometimes when you get on that rock to make it curl on the arena ice, it's going to have more of an effect than you're used to.
Lindsay Burgess now looking to apply a little more pressure. Short of the rings, I think, is the call here, John. See if they can protect that shot stone.
Yeah, makes sense to me. The stone thrown by Kate Kate on her first one is in an absolutely perfect spot. You couldn't have it in a better spot, so not surprised to see them trying to guard it, although we're a little heavy here from Lindsay Burgess.
Now an opportunity for Lindsay Dubé. Maybe make a couple of those yellow rocks go away. They do have the corner up there to work with as well. I don't think you can get the double and the roll, but...
No, but it's there. It's possible you might get a chance to use it.
That was not the miss they wanted, though.
No.
You needed to hold that shooter.
I think the key there was to really get that rock off of the 4-foot. As I alluded to earlier, it's really just in a perfect spot where it would be really difficult to draw around for Kira Brunton to get one if it makes it to the end of the end and it's still there. And don't want to give Lindsay Burgess another chance to guard here. You feel pretty confident she's going to make it.
Get every little bit of movement out of that, and it looks like they finished quite nice there, John.
Looks like it finished just enough, yep.
Good finish.
That's what we were talking about earlier, getting the outside sweeper on the inside to encourage the curl. That's what they were doing there, and Kate Fitzgerald brought that over to the center line nicely, and Kira Brunton's forced to play a run back here. Again, with this one, it'd be beautiful to get the rock on the 4-foot, but if you don't get that, you'd either like to double up the guards or get that back, that yellow in the back 12. And that's a really good shot.
And, well, let's just make 3 go away for fun.
Or you could just simply get them all. And that's what I would have done. I just didn't want to put that much pressure on Lindsay Dubé, but really great shot.
Here's another look at it, John, and yeah, great result.
But this is a testament to how well Nova Scotia's played this end, because Lindsay Dubé makes such a great shot, but Nova Scotia can once again come around that center guard. If Taylor Stevens could replace the rock that was in the forefoot, they're still looking good for a steal. So even though Lindsay Dubé makes that great shot, still a chance here for Nova Scotia to get that steal.
All you.
Still a chance, like you said, John, to apply some pressure here.
Yep.
Yep.
Hard.
Line's really good, guys.
Line's great.
Sit. Okay,
Got
that's
the
good.
stop just before, and it bites the button. And a nice throw
We will see a lot of curl across that
from
here,
Taylor
I think,
Stevens.
right? Okay, I like it. Okay, you got it. Back.
A little surprised at this call. I don't mind it, but if you wick one of the guards, Nova Scotia just makes a better guard, and you're probably giving up a steal, as that Taylor Stevens rock is essentially covering the button. A little bit surprised not to see Kira just play the same shot as Taylor, follow her right down and tap it a little bit. The guard that's on the center line right now is quite high, so wouldn't be that difficult of a shot to make, and you tap it back just 2 or 3 inches and you're pretty much guaranteed at least 1 point. Whereas if you make this, Taylor will either have a draw that she just threw or a hit, and the best you're going to hope for is 1.
Whoa! 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 Yeah! Hard! Hard! Whoa! Whoa! Close! Whoa! Yeah! Whoa! Hard!
Good shot.
Yeah, really good. Good sweeping, good line call, good throw.
The hole was a little bigger than I thought looking at it on the replay, but still a tough shot. Nice make from Kira. And now it looks like we're heading perhaps towards a blank if Taylor makes this. The one thing Kira will be happy about is that Taylor's not playing the same turn that she did. She can't now because Kira's rock rolled. So she's forced to play the out turn here, not the in turn. So it's just a similar, it makes the hole a little bit smaller because the rock on the center line is higher. And it's a turn that Taylor hasn't played. She didn't get to see Kira play it, so.
Hard! Whoa! Whoa! Yes! No!
Yes and no.
Good shot.
You say that hole is bigger than you thought, but I'll tell you what, from the hack, it's still an intimidating little port.
Absolutely. That looked like it almost might have rubbed the guard a smidge.
I thought it kind of did. It seems to be drifting away from the...
Well, just looking at the shot originally, I kind of thought there wasn't really a way. Like, that's why I thought that this was likely a shot that leads to a blank, because I didn't think that there was a way that Taylor could make it and stick perfectly there. I thought the most likely scenario was that Taylor rolls showing on either side of the guard. So if she did get a little clip of that top one, that might have been the way that she was able to get it to stick there. But Kira looks like she's going to throw some weight at this one and try and get a blank here.
Well, big weight here. Did she throw it a little inside, though? Is it going to be off the guard? I think it is.
It is, yeah. It's tight.
So it will be a steal of 1 for Nova Scotia and a 4-2 lead that will take us to the 5th end break. We'll be right back after a few minutes here at the George Preston Recreation Center in the township of Langley, BC.
Before there was ice, there was our hallway at home. I was always the shy, quiet kid who loved math. But when I saw math come alive in the geometry of the game, I found my passion and my voice. It's a game of precision, a game of inches. It's the equation that now defines who I am.
Curling! The game with the ice, and the rocks, and the sweeping, and the yelling. Each game starts with a handshake. Then, 2 teams of 4 people take turns throwing 44-pound stones down a sheet of ice. Each team throws 8 rocks, and the team closest to the center after all the rocks are thrown will score the points. This process is repeated for 6 to 10 rounds until one team is victorious. It's just that simple. Or is it?
This ice is everything. It's where I come to feel close to her, to feel whole. This building helped raise me when my mother no longer could. When I step on the ice, she steps with me. My dad is my rock. We're a team now, like the 4 of us when we step on the ice. People say that this isn't a contact sport, but that's not true. It contacts you where you need it the most.
One might say I was born to overcome challenges. 2 months premature, in and out of the hospital, and a heart condition. My parents call me their miracle baby. As with all survivors, I searched for my place in this world, and I found it here. This pebbled ice is where I battle now, and at only 12, I am already a 5-year veteran of this sport. I have my sights set on the Olympics. I will push hard to get there. The only size that matters in this sport is the size of your dreams.
We are back at the township of Langley in British Columbia at the George Preston Recreation Center. Saturday night, Draw 3 at the 2020 New Holland Canadian Junior Men's and Women's Curling Championships. I'm Al Cameron from Curling Canada, joined tonight by John Cullen on the broadcast of this big women's game between Northern Ontario and Nova Scotia, and it is Nova Scotia that takes a 4-2 lead after 5 ends. And John, what we like to do on these broadcasts is put you in the position of coach. If you were the coach of each of these teams, what would you have said to your team during that break? Well, let's start with Northern Ontario coach Steve Acorn. What would you have talked to your team about?
Well, first of all, I'd call myself the coach and not the coach. But I would say if I'm Steve Acorn, I would say just keep going. I think Northern Ontario has actually been in control of most of the ends thus far. I think that he's likely going to save the discussion of the shot selection in the fifth end until after the game. But I do think that maybe he would be a little bit questioning. I don't want to say upset, but he might have questioned Kira's strategy there in the fifth end. I do think after Taylor makes her first one around the guard, it made a little bit more sense for Kira to follow that rock rather than to make the play all go through that port. Just because it's just tricky to get through ports, and there was opportunity there to almost guarantee yourself too if you make that draw. So I think that that's something that he's probably thinking about, but he's probably not going to mention it till after the game. But I think, yeah, he's probably saying, hey, let's just keep our head down. We've been in control of most of these ends. It has seemed like, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but it has seemed like the back end of Northern Ontario has outplayed the back end of Nova Scotia. But Nova Scotia's made the shots when they've had to. And so I think that's probably all he's saying. Just keep it going. I don't think they've had a bad game at all. And, I think there's a good opportunity for Northern Ontario to get back in this game. And we always say, you love to come out of the fifth end break. Even if you're down 2, you just say to yourself, okay, no big deal. We'll just get our 2 here, get back on track. And so I'm sure that was the message at the fifth end break too. Let's just head out in the sixth end. We got hammer. Let's get our 2.
And conversely, if you're Mary Matatall with that Nova Scotia team, what are you telling the team?
I think you're just telling them to stay focused on draw weight. I think one thing Nova Scotia has struggled with thus far has been the draw weight. And don't get me wrong, both Lindsay and Taylor have made some great draws. Kate Callahan as well, or Kate Fitzgerald, both making great draws. Like they have made some good draws, but they have been a little bit inconsistent with their draw weight. And so they're, again, we're likely talking, you're always talking about how quick the ice is, and we've mentioned it a few times in this draw, that this is likely the quickest it's been for them all week so far, well, all 2 days between practice and the games they've played already today. This is likely the quickest the ice has been for them. So probably just a lot of talk about that draw weight, and let's make sure we hit our tolerances. That's something that, you and I have harped on in this game, and Nova Scotia, I think, has had a few shots where they have, misunderstood their tolerance a little bit, or they haven't hit their tolerance. So to me, that's likely what she's talking about. Just stay connected into that draw weight and make sure that if we're missing a shot, we're missing it in a positive manner so that we're getting something out of it.
And already we see Nova Scotia in command of this end, 3 counters in there. But Northern Ontario does have the corner guard up. I think the hit and roll is the call here, John.
Absolutely, yeah. No brainer.
And it is hitting and it is rolling, but I think it's going to roll. Well, it'll roll for second shot, so not a terrible result. And
it's a pretty good result
over there too. So that's going to be tough to remove. So it's going to have to be something that Taylor Stevens and that Nova Scotia team are aware of.
Yeah, I think if you're Northern Ontario, you're happy with that shot. This is what you want. You want Taylor Stevens to be playing around the corner.
Looks like she will ignore it, though, and put up the short center again.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by this call, I have to be honest with you. Because the problem here is you're not guarding a rock that's likely going to factor in the counting at the end of the end. And when you call a tight guard like this, if you come too tight to the rings, it's pretty easy for Northern Ontario to hit and roll another counter into the rings. And if you ever came deep, you'd be in big trouble. And if you come short, it's easy for them to hit it. I mean, they got lucky. They put it in pretty much a perfect spot where you can't do any of the dangerous things I said, but
That said, they can go around it too.
exactly.
Yeah.
Your shot rock's just not in a really great position there. Doing what I talked about. I don't think you can get on the rings though, but
Double corner guard's a good thing, though.
yeah,
Can certainly
absolutely.
come into play later in the end.
Absolutely. Yep.
While they consider this shot, John, I just want to tell you a little bit something about a great promotion by our title sponsor, New Holland. It's the New Holland Hay Tools giveaway.
Oh,
They are
baby.
giving away $400,000 worth of farm equipment, and we're talking really big tractors, really
Sweet.
big balers, a round baler with a moisture sensor, and $400,000 worth of that equipment. The grand prize drawing will take place on March 2nd, and you can enter the New Holland Hay Tools giveaway at newhollandgiveaway.com. That's newhollandgiveaway.com to enter the great New Holland Hay Tools giveaway from our great sponsors at New Holland. So the hit was made there by Northern Ontario, but it doesn't roll too far, so it's still probably usable as a center guard by Nova Scotia, and that's what they're going to do
Look
with
at your big push.
Lindsay Burgess.
Fitz is in.
Absolutely.
Really running. It's all you. Okay. Easy, can you wait? No.
I wonder if
hard.
that tractor would fit in my parkade.
It might have come in handy.
Hard over. Hard, you gotta be at
Yeah,
least
this
full
week it
forward.
would have for
Finish,
sure.
guys.
Holy
Go,
smokes.
go, go. Hard. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Trying to scrape it in there for
Okay.
a second shot, but it will be, in fact, if it's on the rings, we'll see in the overhead. Yeah, it got on there, but it's fourth shot. And Northern Ontario
Just behind T, then they
will
breathe.
try to draw behind themselves, looking for a chance to generate a deuce.
Dead very
And
good.
doing it in the sixth end, that becomes a little more important as we start the discussion about scoreboard management in this last half of the game, John.
Absolutely. I kind of like this call by Kira Brunton, a little bit more aggressive. You know, the yellow rock is wide open. You could hit it to lie two, but you know that if you do that, Nova Scotia could just come around the center guard, and then you're chasing the rest of the end. So I like the aggressive call here by Kira Brunton to kind of again be the first one in there. And it's like I said earlier, if I was Steve Acorn, I'd be telling them to keep doing what they're doing, because I feel like they're in control of a lot of the ends and they're managing them really well. And that's a great shot by Lindsay Dubé, and
Very
she's
nice.
had a great game so far.
And a lot of that is an expression of confidence in that front end as well. Alyssa Daly, Jessica Leonard, knowing that they have great sweeping judgment. And a great story about them from earlier this season, John. They were playing in the Stu Sells Tankard. They won it, actually, in the women's division out in Toronto, or the Toronto area, I believe. And I guess Calissa Daly was eating an apple between games and legitimately started choking and could not breathe. And it was her teammate, Jessica Leonard, front-end teammate, who performed the Heimlich maneuver to save her. And that might have been the TSN turning point of their season.
Wow. Yeah, usually the TSN turning point doesn't involve life saving. That's pretty cool. The only thing worse than that would be if it all took place in the bathroom. So I heard that's what happened. So that's crazy.
In fact, it did take place in the bathroom at the curling club there. So
love it. Well, congratulations. That's a pretty good teammate. I always like to think of myself as a pretty good lead, but I never saved anyone's life.
One day.
Maybe.
Never say never.
And while we were talking, Lindsay Burgess made a fantastic shot, and now Northern Ontario's trying to follow her down here. This looks like it might be a little spicy. That's pretty close. It's got a curl though. Yeah, that's not ideal. The tolerance there would have been light. You come a little deep here. Now you're giving Nova Scotia a chance to make a double, lie two with one of them completely buried and biting the top of the button. So
now that's a pretty routine double to sit three.
Absolutely. You don't even have to stick right there if you don't want to. You could roll out, and Northern Ontario's still in some trouble here.
Over to the wing.
Yeah, you heard her talk. Wouldn't mind rolling over to the wing. Reminder that we will be back for the 9 a.m. draw tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern at the 2020 New Holland Canadian Juniors. Taylor Stevens playing the hit. Chance to remove 2 and sit 3 here.
Whoa! Hard on the red. Hard, Lindsay.
It's a good shot. I actually think that's likely what they were trying. I think that was the better shot. If you leave the yellow there,
it's a catcher.
It's a catcher. You leave a possible double and roll behind cover for Northern Ontario. And especially if you rolled off just a little bit, then you'd leave a double, like just a straight nut double where you'd sit right behind the center guard. So by rolling out, you give Northern Ontario none of those options. Kira's likely got a run here.
And that's not...
it's not easy, no. Whatever she's looking at is...
Yeah, there's no straight back run, that's for
No.
sure. You can't see on the overhead, but there is a red stone that is obscuring a little bit of that yellow one that's... and they're looking at some kind of angle raise here.
Might move it at least.
Yeah, Kira now is all she's concentrating on is, can I get myself a draw path for my last one? That's all you can think about.
Okay, we got it.
So looks like she's trying the double run and get one of those yellows. I mean, ideally you get the top yellow off of the forefoot, but if you don't get that, you might get lucky and get the back one instead. But just getting rid of that one on the center is really big right now.
Needs to give herself a shot at the end here, and this is crucial.
That's amazing
for
how
Kira Brunton.
the end turned on them.
Gotta go. Hard. Hard.
I think that's over curling, John.
It is, and that is...
Oh, Danger Bay.
That is Danger Bay. I don't know exactly where Danger Bay is located, but it's somewhere in Northern Ontario right now, yeah. Yeah, it's, like I said, amazing how quickly this end turned around. Lindsay Burgess made a phenomenal freeze on her second shot. Lindsay Dubé couldn't match it, and
then she can't hit it.
now Nova Scotia's in complete control. Kira Brunton is sitting back there thinking, how am I going to get one here? Again, this is just a line shot for Taylor. You just want to take away Kira's draw. Even if you don't get third shot, it's not the end of the world. You could be completely outside of the house as long as you're blocking that draw path. You force...
Third shot. That's good.
We'll just hear them discuss this here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just don't jump it.
Big shot here, but it's a comfortable shot, isn't it, John, when you know you're sitting 2?
Absolutely.
And a steal is looking very probable here.
Yeah, even if you threw this in the boards, you're probably stealing.
Line's good. Just top 12. Line's good. Where? You got it. Whoa! Whoa! Can you bounce it? Bounce it, bounce it. Hard, hard, hard.
See, that's fine. That's what I was talking about. You don't mind being light there. She did over curl a little bit. They probably could have dragged it for third shot, but Kira does have a draw here. Just a draw to the side of the button here for her one.
It's a scary proposition here.
It is. You don't want to go down 6-2, that's for sure. Yeah, shot of the game so far here for Kira Brunton.
The wide out turn, her out turn. Counterclockwise rotation. looking at 2 Nova Scotia
Line's
counters.
good.
Now this is on the sweepers.
Line's good, yep. Hard line. Hard line. Hard. Line's good, hard. Hard, you gotta be full 8. Hard. Hard, you got it. Hard. Keep going. Never off. Go, go, go. Hard.
Good
Well,
shot.
Okay, that's good.
Great
1-0.
sweeping by that front end to cut them down to a single point. But it is a steal, and it is a 5-2 lead now for Nova Scotia.
Good shot by Kira Brunton. Put it in a space. You always, on these shots, you always want your sweepers to be involved. You never, as a sweeper, want to be walking down beside that thing going, what can we do with it? So great sweep by both Kalissa and Jessica, and cut them down to 1. Not bad, keeps you in the game. 6-2, you're still in the game, but you feel a little further away from it. 5-2 feels, with the 5 rock rule especially, very manageable if you're Northern Ontario.
We'll take a chance to look around the other games going on here tonight. A reminder that you can go on curling.ca/scoreboard. Curling.ca/scoreboard. You can get all the scores as they happen. In women's action here tonight at the arena, it is BC's Kayla Bushy. You know, there's a relation there between Ernie Bushy way back in the day and Kayla's dad, Tom Bushy. They spell their names differently, but they are related. And I've always wanted to say Bushy, but it is Bushy, as you correctly say. It is 4-3 for Kayla Bushy over Saskatchewan's Ashley Tevno. BC does have the hammer and a 4-3 lead right now, playing in that 6th end. And in the other women's game here in the arena, it is Manitoba, Mackenzie Zacharias, with a pair of 4-enders, now up 8-1 on Nunavut's Sadie Pinkson. And over at the curling club, it is Ontario, Julie Breton, or Sierra Sutherland's team from Ottawa, out in a 13-1 lead now over the Yukon's Bailey Scoffin, a 6-ender in the 5th end.
That's
for
pretty good.
Ontario. And in men's action tonight, here in the arena, another BC Saskatchewan game, and this time it is Saskatchewan's Rylan Kleider up 6-2 on the BC number 2 team that's skipped by Johnson Tao. 6-2 for Saskatchewan, playing in the 7th end. And also here in the arena, it is PEI's Tyler Smith looking to start 2-0 on opening day in a 4-3 lead over New Brunswick's Liam Marine. And Tyler Smith having himself a 90% game tonight.
That's pretty good.
New Brunswick, looking to go 2-0. And over at the curling club, it is Alberta taking on the Northwest Territories. A real tight game over there, actually. Alberta 0-1 after losing its opener. The Territories making their debut in 2020, and it's Alberta with a 2-1 lead, playing the 6th end. Alberta's Ryan Jacques from Edmonton, playing Sawyer Kaiser from Yellowknife. And it's 2-1 with the Territories having the hammer in the 6th end of that game.
Yeah, a lot of close scores, and again, we were talking earlier about the great junior programs across the country, and those tight scores are a reflection of that, no question.
And correction on Sawyer Kaiser, of course, he's from the Fort Smith area, not Yellowknife, so apologies to the Kaiser family and the entire city of Fort Smith.
Yeah. How many people do you think live there?
Enough that we would get emails.
Yeah, I feel like that number's pretty low. I feel like the population number is pretty low for you to get emails.
If I disappoint even one of our fans, John, it is a bad night.
Well, I'm preparing for a number of emails coming my way.
So once again, Nova Scotia really putting on pressure in the early parts of an end, and they are sitting 2, and another rock coming into play here.
Yeah, these are the ends, you know, you get a 5-2 lead, and as a lead, this is where you feel nice, you know, you just got to kind of get your rocks in the house, get them in a decent position, and you know that the other team's probably going to be chasing, and that's what's happened here. But, you know, 2 good shots by Northern Ontario as well, getting their staggered corner guards here on the left side of the sheet as you're looking at it. And so, you know, it does look like Nova Scotia's in control, but Northern Ontario's going to have some opportunities here.
Calissa Daly needing the roll on this. Take advantage of those corner guards. And there it is right there. And moving that rock off the back button too.
Great shot.
Yeah, that is terrific. And there's an example, John, just how quickly an end could turn around.
Absolutely.
Here's
Well,
the
that's what you're
replay.
hoping when you get the 2 corner guards up. That's pretty much exactly what you hope happens. And a nice little bonus getting that rock off the forefoot.
Kira had a choice of which rock to sweep and
Chose the wrong one.
chose the wrong one, but
happened to
in the
all
heat
of
of
us.
the battle, yeah,
Yeah.
you don't know. So the straight peel called by Nova Scotia.
This is where Kira has to kind of decide how aggressive she wants to go. You could stack another one behind the corner guard and really put the pressure on Nova Scotia. She's electing to go behind the center, which is just fine too. But this move is typically signifies that you're more likely to be going for 2 than 3.
Trying to drag this one in for shot stone behind that center guard. Weight looks pretty nice. Just a matter of whether to bury.
Good shot.
It is in jail.
Well, it's a nice spot too, because even though it is showing a little bit around that corner guard, Nova Scotia could likely make a hit play at it. It's likely jamming on the yellow at the back, so it forces Nova Scotia into more of a draw game here, which is exactly what Kira wants. It's the way that she will be able to stack up points here.
So Lindsay Burgess trying to match what she did last end. It was an end killer and an end setup, but I don't think she's going to match it this time. It's going to roll out into the open.
Now all of a sudden it's looking like a pretty darn good setup from Northern Ontario. And again, another really mature call from Kira here. I think, again, you might see some teams hit that yellow rock, but she's electing to draw another one on top of her red, recognizing it's behind the tee line.
Yeah, mature and patient, I think, is a good word for it too, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
There's still rocks to come in this end, and you will have an opportunity. You don't have to go at it right away.
No question. I think that's another benefit of the 5 rock rule that we've seen, is that it's, even at the junior level, getting these curlers to really think about how to stack points and build ends. And this is a fine plan B. Leaves a double for Nova Scotia, but the yellow should be in the open and will allow Kira Brunton to roll back.
Yep. Makes the double, and sitting 3, Nova Scotia.
Got really loud in here. I was ceased being able to hear myself think. Yeah, Lindsay Burgess didn't make that exactly the way she would have wanted to. The way that those rocks were set up, she could have made the double and kind of sat right on top of her own, but she hit it a little bit thin, which leaves both yellow rocks behind the tee line, which Kira Brunton is going to like.
Sure, she's trying to just come across the face and see if she can get buried behind that center guard.
Whoa. No.
Don't like to hear that, though.
No. She may be wide here.
Sorry.
Again, that's when I'm, you could have thrown maybe a little less weight. The roll there was more important than making the double, and I think sometimes you get it in your mind that they're set up so nicely for a double. You think, okay, let's get both of them here and roll under, and you don't have to get both of them there. And so that's one where I feel like, you might have been able to play like a board or a control weight, get the sweepers a little bit more involved and get that roll. So now it's looking like Kira is going to have a big choice to make after this shot, whether she wants to really go hard out for 2 or not.
Open hit, sit 3 for Taylor Stevens. I think she's close.
No, curl.
Oh, they're asking for that rock to curl. I'm not sure how much it will, but enough.
That's good.
And it hangs on for 3rd shot, I believe, John.
Yeah, it's tough to see right now. I can't see the top red in our camera angle. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
No. This just makes the decision for Kira easier. If Taylor were to roll in a little bit, then Kira might be thinking, okay, let's just hit these, try for a hit and roll. And if you nose, then you go, okay, well, we're only getting 1. Whereas now it's a pretty obvious draw around and go hard out for your 2 here.
I think in a lot of ways, though, Kira Brunton needs to make a big shot.
Absolutely. She's due.
Not just for the scoreboard, but also for the confidence factor here.
Yep, absolutely. Her draws have been on the money, so.
Line's good.
Back 8, back 12 is what they're saying.
They do have backing here, but looks like it's got to curl a long way to get there. Now that should be up by quite a bit.
No, you're rolling off way big. Okay.
So an opportunity that gets away from Northern Ontario, and
So
it
we
will
don't
be.
give her like a whole wall.
Let's hear what they have to
Yeah,
say.
but if you roll there. Okay.
I mean, it's either that or the draw, but the draw's kind of.
I like the hit.
This is safe, yeah.
Okay.
I'm 5 again.
I think in a closer game, you might try and draw here and get a steal, but when you're up 3, you just make this go away and your opponent's forced to take 1.
And you take a 2-point lead and the hammer into the 8th end?
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. And I'm not surprised that discussion was very short.
The same way.
Open hit and stick. Just make it go away.
Kind of agree with Lindsay Burgess there. The call was probably to roll away on that rock. And now you give Kira a little bit of backing here.
So draw, bite the forefoot to get a single point, and maybe just stop the bleeding a little bit here for Northern Ontario, which has given up stolen points in both the 5th and 6th ends to Nova Scotia.
Line's good. Where?
Big.
You need this? If you need this, you gotta go. Yep. Yep.
Sweepers
Right
are
to
saying
it.
they need the backing.
It
Right
looks
to
really
it.
heavy.
Hard. Hard.
I think that'll be all right.
Yep.
One.
And that's why Lindsay Burgess wanted to roll away.
Yep.
Because
Those little things that you mentioned, John, those little things do make a big difference.
I mean, that rock was through the house quite easily. So, you know, you never know. Taylor Stevens rolls away there. That one goes through the house, and we're saying game over. But, again, Kira knew that the backing was there, so it's not like it's a guarantee that she would have thrown the same stone had the rock not been there. But certainly, you know, sometimes you get stolen on a few times, and it feels a little bit relieving to get rid of the hammer. We feel like if we feel like the hammer's a good advantage that we want to have all the time, but sometimes it's just you know, it feels relieving and pressure lifting to get rid of it. And I think, you know, Northern Ontario's gotten their ends set up pretty well, and I think that Jessica Leonard's had a nice game so far. She's made quite a few shots, and so I think, you know, if you're Northern Ontario, you're probably feeling like, okay, we just steal. We get a 6-5 win, and that's nice.
So we go to the 8th end. Nova Scotia up 5-3 on Northern Ontario. Northern Ontario lost its opening game earlier today. Nova Scotia, meanwhile, was a winner, looking to go 2-0 on opening day here in the township of Langley. Both these leads, by the way, having good games. Jessica Leonard being scored at 85% through 7 ends. Probably that was through 5 ends. We'll get an update here online here. They haven't posted it quite yet, but both of them, as you say, are shooting extremely well, setting up the ends. It's just a matter now and then of closing it out.
Well, you definitely feel, you know, we've talked about the adjustment to arena ice, and, you know, as a lead especially, and I know from playing lead for a very long time, most of my career, that once you get adjusted to arena ice, nothing feels better as a lead. You get that draw weight in your back pocket, and you just feel like you can make everything. And both these girls having really solid games.
John, of course, will be joining us for many of the evening games throughout these New Holland Canadian Juniors, and we'll be speaking, our featured speaker, at the banquet on Friday night.
Big mistake. I wouldn't do it. There's still time to cancel. For you guys, not for me. I'm not canceling.
Well, having seen John speak and entertain on a few occasions, I can assure you it is not a big mistake. And John is a very, very funny man. I've seen his stand up on a couple of occasions. And John, why don't you give yourself a plug here? Where can people find out more?
Oh, man.
Come on now.
Well, I have a curling-specific Twitter account, at Cullen the Curler. You can follow me on. I try and make some humorous observations about our game and try and get some of the top players in the world mad at me for things I say. And it usually works out pretty well. And you can follow my regular account on Twitter at Cullen the Comic. And yeah, I do jokes, and I'm good at it, I guess.
Very good.
Thank you. And yeah, if you're out there and you're a curling fan and you want a curling specific comedian, let me know. I'm the only one.
I was going to say he's the best of a pretty shallow talent pool, but at least he's got the asset of being legitimately funny.
I'm the best and worst curling comedian that there is. So this is a nice setup both ways. You know, Nova Scotia makes both their shots, but the way that they're staggered, Northern Ontario with their two guards up there probably feel like they've got a nice chance to get in here. So this is how the messy ends start, and this could be exciting. This could be a good one.
But I feel like you're right, John, that Northern Ontario, I think, probably not uncomfortable to give up the hammer and just shake things up here a little bit.
Absolutely. Sometimes the hammer feels stagnant, you know. And especially when they really haven't played poorly. It's just been a matter of one shot each end that's kind of sunk them. And so I think, you know, especially when you're making a lot of shots, it kind of feels nice to just have that sort of pressure off. And that's a great shot.
That's a dandy right
from
there.
Calissa Daly. Now, Nova Scotia's sitting 2, so they do have the option here where they could start guarding and go on the offense, but they are up 2 with Hammer, so we're going to see them peel here.
Kind of think if they tried to throw another rock in there, Mary Matatal might be yelling a timeout from the bench and changing their mind. I like the peel here.
Oh yeah, I like it too.
Oh.
Ooh. Just about got them both, but when you don't get them both and you leave one there.
Serves as another guard and certainly cuts off one side of the sheet for the draw too. So
indeed.
Definitely some options here for Northern Ontario. I think they're liking the tap into the pocket.
Yeah, the thing is that, like I said earlier, Nova Scotia is sitting 2 in the air. They're always going to have the option to just start guarding and go on the offense. So the thing is, you know, you might think if you're watching, oh, well, why don't you just replace the guard? Well, you replace the guard, and Nova Scotia might say, well, now there's a guard blocking off our other draw path. Maybe we just go on the offense and we try and score here. So you can't really do that, but this is, that's a tough miss for Calissa Daly, especially after making the first one so nice. That's tough. This is going to allow Nova Scotia to completely open it up.
Straight peel here. Not playing any kind of run back, just wanting to clear the open up the front of the house, and mission accomplished.
Well, yeah, you'd never want to play a run back there, Al. You'd be losing your 2 shot stones.
No, that would be disaster on a lot of levels. So
that's right.
Great shot, great call.
Yeah, Northern Ontario now, unfortunately, is kind of forced to guard this, and you get into a situation where you kind of run out of rocks a little bit.
Just a 2.
Straight guard.
Just a 2. Wait
2
only.
meaning the zone within the free guard zone they want to leave it in, which is roughly
Jess,
halfway between the
go.
hog line and the house.
Hard, Jess.
Sort of right there.
Yeah, good shot. Again, this is going to be the little dance here. Nova Scotia is going to peel again, but if you're Northern Ontario, you start to think, okay, at what point do we throw up a guard and then they guard it? And then we're in big trouble. It's still too early for that. I agree with this call by Nova Scotia, but I think if you're Northern Ontario, that's what you start to get worried about.
It's in the back of your mind, no doubt about that.
Right up. Clean.
Right to it.
Clean.
That's all right. Good
Yep.
peel by Lindsay Burgess.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It was interesting. Kira went to put her broom down right away for the guard, and I was kind of like, oh, surprised that she was so sure to throw the guard, and now she's changed her mind, so I'm not too surprised.
Okay.
So this is the tap.
Good shot.
Yeah, real nice.
Good shot by Lindsay Dubé. This is going to force Nova Scotia to get rid of one of their shot stones. And depending on how this ends up, you could see...
I would just hate to jam them and...
We could do that. But just 10.
Just the top one?
Yeah, because then we're still shot 2 and they have to do it again.
Yeah.
10.
That's a great point.
They literally read my mind. I was just about to say that depending on where you hit the top one, you could end up making them shot, and you don't want to do that.
Yes! Yes! Hard!
They were calling the sweep before that left her hand.
Kate. Hard, Kate! Hard! You got it! Hard, you got it! Hard! Hard! Hard on the 5. Hard on the 5. Go.
That's a good
Go,
scrub
go,
by
go,
that
go,
front
right
end
on,
of
right
Nova
on, right on,
Scotia.
hard, hard. That's good, Ben.
We do have our first result, John. It
We do.
is Manitoba's Mackenzie Zacharias recording the, well, let's do the math here. 11-1, thank you.
Yeah.
11-1 win over Nunavut's Sadie Pinkson.
Yeah. This next sounds pretty good.
So a 2-0 opening day for Manitoba. One of the teams that a lot of people like the look of coming in, especially with the addition of Carly Burgess and Lauren Lenentine, having moved from Nova Scotia to attend school in Manitoba.
Looks like Kira's going to come down and tap her own, try and be shot here.
She can't see very much of it, I don't think.
Can't see a ton, but you kind of have no choice now. You got to get yourself into a situation where you can steal. So even if she can kind of maybe
wait
doesn't
on the
make it,
line's
but
good.
puts herself in front of it.
Okay, wait if you can. Line's good.
Oh, she's just guarding.
Jess, you
Interesting.
gotta go. Hard, Jess. Hard, Jess. Hard. Cross center. Hard, cross center. Hard. Both of you. Hard. Hard. Keep going, keep going. Okay.
Guard was made. I would say Nova Scotia shot here.
Nova Scotia's definitely a shot to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, the guard's an interesting call because Nova Scotia, I think probably Kira Brunton was trying to curl that a little bit more so that
Yeah,
she
I
would
think so
have
too.
the
I
sort
don't
of
know.
slash on her last one.
Play with it. Okay, like you can.
And the mindset's not at all to hold them to 1 year, is it? I mean, they
No, you wouldn't
steal.
think so.
Yeah.
It is a lonely red in there, so maybe her thought was that if they play that little slash and they end up moving the red, and it would give Taylor Stevens a short run back for 3. That might have been her thought process there, but
Clean.
Just
Whoa.
clean.
Whoa.
Well, it's still a 4 in the scoreboard on the scoring. It wasn't
it's a 4 in our hearts.
the most effective PL I've ever seen, but it got the job done.
Sorry.
It's effective in every way it needed to be, so it worked for me. Yeah, this is interesting now. Kira's got a choice because the thing is, if you do come around and you play just a mini tap on your red one, if you squirt the yellow that's on the button a little too far, then it gives Taylor Stevens a fairly short run back for 2 and or 3, depending on how well she makes it. So that's kind of the issue you run into.
Yeah, just a touch. If we're light, that's okay.
Yeah, that's the miss. You never want to be
Exactly.
heavy here.
Nope.
You just, if you tap that red, like I said, give Stevens a short run back. But if you just come in and you just kiss that red to shot, then Stevens is playing a run back double for 1 or 2 if she makes it really good. Kira's got a steal though, so I like the call.
Thought I heard back 4 there, John.
Yep.
That would be pretty much the perfect weight.
The line is good.
Whoa.
Just want to nuzzle that.
Hard just.
Like
That's
that.
a great shot.
Real good.
Absolutely perfect.
Here's another look at it. Just a really well executed curling shot. Good line call.
Perfect weight. I mean, you just couldn't make it any better. You couldn't walk it down there any better. And now Stevens is left to try and play this double, maybe for one.
Hits this, it might catch the 2. Worst comes to worst, if we play this, we just give up 1.
Yeah, I think so. Or do we ever just are we sure we never give up? Like, what if I just don't want to get that and spill over top and give them 3?
But if we nose it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to just sacrifice the 1?
I don't know.
How do we give up 3?
Like if we.
That's what
I
I
don't
was
know
wondering.
If we
Yeah.
do, but if we like hit this over curl it or something and spill over
Well,
tail.
do you want to give enough ice? We're never. I don't think we're ever over curling it.
Okay.
Like I'm throwing peel probably.
You're never giving up
try to
3, I
just-
don't think. You're almost all, 99.9% of the time you're losing that top red guaranteed.
Yeah.
Just with peel.
Do you want to clip this?
Yeah, barely. Literally nose.
Okay.
So
Time out. Time out.
We will get a timeout from Nova Scotia.
looked like the coach, Mary Matatal, called that one. I think here you're of two minds because
think it's fair.
it looked like the shot that Stevens was calling was kind of a sort of get rid of all of them. You sort of just graze the top red. You get both the red and yellow that are married together, and you maybe get that back red and sit for 1. Let's hear what Mary has to say.
What you think's going to happen here?
If you nose it,
You're going to
this is going there, right? Barely.
barely.
And it,
And just get rid of everything and just have our shooter be 1?
yeah.
That's going to be creaming off that. All said, that may be the shot over there.
What?
They-
Like that may be the
That
point,
may be
she
the
said.
point. I don't think that was a great shot. I
They're
think we
one.
take our pain and take the force and go.
Take the force or give up 1?
Give up 1, because if you hit that just badly, you may give up 2.
Okay.
If you're going, that back one is going. Move
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
I think as much as I hate to say it, they made a great shot. Take ouch and go.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you like it?
We never try to just straight
You're always moving
tap
that
and like.
yellow one, though. Always. To move that.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
Okay with that?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Just throw it to the boards, I guess, is going to be the call.
Yeah, I agree with Mary here.
Yeah.
Like we said, there might be a shot for 1 where you spill all 4, but I agree with Mary's suggestion that likely if you try to do that, you could give up 2, which is a disaster situation. And
That was the only way you're bringing a steal of 2 into play.
correct.
Yeah.
And she said it's even likely that the red that's just kind of catching in the 12-foot ends up being the 1. You might be able to get rid of all 4, but then you still have to somehow stick your shooter. So I think this is the right call. Like Mary said, sometimes you just have to take your medicine. Kira made a fantastic shot,
Yeah.
and she's part of the way there. She's got her 1, and now she's down 1.
Great end there, John. Lots of interesting angles that developed and some interesting calls. And it leads to a steal of 1 for Northern Ontario, and it will be a 5-4 lead for Nova Scotia, who will take the hammer into the 9th end. And, you talk about the world of analytics, and our friend Jerry Gertz at Curling Zone has done a lot of work in this area, as have various high-performance crews. Renee Sonnenberg of Curling Canada kind of overseeing our analytics piece with a lot of insight and research. And there's a lot of mindsets about this very scenario. With hammer, 1 up, playing the 9th end.
Yeah, the school of thought is that giving up a steal here of 1 is not so bad. Back in the day, you'd think, oh, well, we're never trying to give any any points away, but there have been some teams. We've seen, we know that one team that's very analytics focused is Jason Gunlickson, and we've seen him multiple times have a chance for one in the ninth, a pretty easy chance for one in the ninth, and throw his last one away in order to retain Hammer tied coming home. So we'll see how analytically minded these girls are. I tend to think that at the junior level, if you have chances to take points and put your opponent in difficult situations, you do it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens here. I think if there are teams here that are studying analytics, Nova Scotia would be one of them that's doing that. So we'll see how they play it, but looks like a fairly standard start here.
Coming into the rings with this draw, trying to get behind the center guard that was thrown up by Northern Ontario, and this is looking like a very nice throw.
A little deep, but that's not too bad. Again, we talked about that earlier with the 5 rock rule. Teams don't mind being a little bit deeper in the forefoot, encourages a little bit more action to start.
Meanwhile, put yourself in Northern Ontario's mindset, down one without. Would they prefer to tie it up and give up Hammer coming home, or be 2 down with coming home?
Again, I think that for me, I've always enjoyed trying to steal the 10th. It doesn't always work out, but I think especially in a game of momentum like this, if you're coming off back-to-back steals, going into the 10th end, tying the game up, I think you don't mind that. I think Northern Ontario is probably going to feel comfortable in both scenarios. They're probably going to feel like they could generate a 2 in 10, but they're also probably going to feel like they could steal 10 if they had to. So I think I think for Northern Ontario right now, with the way the momentum's gone in this game, you really try and bear down and steal again here.
Of course, that would present the scenario of steal, steal, steal to win the game, which would be a pretty cool-looking scoreboard. But in this event, we've seen that before.
Absolutely. Well, and not just this event. I mean, I think it's obviously, we're not telling tales out of school that in junior curling, the momentum swings and the point swings can be bigger than in senior level curling. But, I think that you take the momentum when you can get it. And I think if you are fine playing without the hammer, you go for it. And I think teams at the top level feel that way too. I think Northern Ontario right now just feels like, let's just get our rocks in good spots. They've made lots of good shots, and I'm not going to lie, I had a point and I forgot it about halfway through. It's the 9th end. This is a grind. I'm learning on the job here too. I started out having a really good point, and then I just ended it by talking like every other broadcaster that's ever broadcasted, so congratulations to me.
I thought you sold it not bad, though.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
But you talk about momentum swings, and as a perfect example, we look at the Quebec versus Manitoba 2 game, this men's game this morning. Quebec jumps out to a 6-0 lead after 3 ends against the Jacques Gauthier team from Manitoba, and come to the 10th end, and in fact, Manitoba's got a 1-point lead and the hammer in the 10th end, and they end up winning in the extra. So lots of momentum shifts. You can count on a miss or two and never get down and out, because there's always going to be a chance.
Absolutely. Oh, this is the point I was going to make. In the 5 rock rule, at the senior level, not just the junior level, like, yes, juniors can make more mistakes and do make more mistakes, but with the 5 rock rule, we're seeing it a lot at the senior level too. We see the Brier, the Scotties, the Grand Slams. We're seeing teams come back from scores that they just simply were not coming back from before. And I think that that's something that we're going to see a lot throughout this week, as you just alluded to with the Quebec versus Manitoba 2 game. And I think that that's that's just the way the game is now. Teams are capable of making great shots, and the 5-rock rule allows any team a chance to score at any time.
That's looking really nice.
Extremely good shot. That's 2 ends in a row that Calissa Daly has made a fantastic shot to get the end really set up here. It is a little bit open. Nova Scotia should be able to move it, but especially when you're trying to steal, you always want the other team to be chasing you, and Northern Ontario right now has got another great setup.
Trying to make this curl a little. I think they'll at least remove the rock. I'm not sure they'll hold the shooter, though. Well, it should hang in there for third shot. And it does.
That rock could prove to be valuable a little bit later. We saw last end that factored into Nova Scotia deciding to throw their last one into the boards, that Northern Ontario kind of had a hanger in the 12-foot that was concerning to Nova Scotia, and now we see the roles reversed a little bit. Nova Scotia's got that hanger there, and you wonder if that could come into play later.
Another final to report. Saskatchewan's Ryland Kleider with an 8-4 win over the BC number 2 team, skipped by Johnson Tao. Good start for Saskatchewan. They had a tough day of travel getting here, John. The 2 Saskatchewan teams were the last to arrive. Didn't get in here till 3 a.m. Friday.
Wow.
You'd think they were coming from Newfoundland.
Well, I mean, Saskatchewan, pretty cold right now. Pretty cold, they tell me. I wouldn't know. I don't go there, but that's what they say.
They say it's cold everywhere outside of here right now.
True.
Coming down from Kamloops this past week, it was in the mid-minus 20s, and we don't get that in Kamloops very often.
Yeah, no kidding. We're being ultra-Canadian right now, commentating on curling and talking about the weather, the winter weather.
Nice little pick there made by Lindsay Burgess. That's the other kind of Canadian characteristic when you're talking about distances. You don't talk in terms of miles, you talk in terms of hours.
That's right.
Americans will say, oh, it's 100 miles. A Canadian will say, oh, it's an hour and a half.
That's right. Well, you're going to be in the car. You might as well count it out. So now Northern Ontario is the one who's got the hanger advantage, as it were, sitting second and third shot here.
Yep, you can go.
Lindsay Dubé can make a good one. Northern Ontario just hasn't quite got that finish. They haven't got that berry yet that would really put pressure on Nova Scotia. This looks a little light, maybe. They're really scrubbing it.
They're dragging it not bad.
Roll off.
I'm not sure they're going to get there for shot, but in an okay position, usable. But
I think the main sorry to interrupt, Al. The main focus here for Northern Ontario is you just never want to give up 2. You give up 1, you feel like, okay, we're down 2, we can get 2 in 10, make all our shots, get 2, take our chance in the extra.
Keep giving them that, though.
I know, that's why. Okay, well, lights tolerance.
What do we do what do they do if we do this? Like, what is it? Okay, let's just make it.
That's the solution.
It's always the solution.
I wonder, would Northern Ontario ever look at that wide intern?
They might. It's just tough. You don't know what it's doing.
Looks big.
But yeah, just what I was saying earlier, that if you're Northern Ontario, you just don't want to give up 2 here. And even though Lindsay Dubé is a little light, the Rocks are in a decent spot right now to not give up 2.
Right around?
Not quite sure what to do with this stone, but they don't want it terribly heavy because that's a nice pocket.
Yep.
That was, you heard them talk about what's the tolerance. Light is the tolerance, and that was not light. You can see the disappointment on Lindsay Birch's face.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, this is a perfect pocket right now. If Kira Brunton can just put her red stone right on top of that yellow, that is going to be a real challenge for Nova Scotia to remove. And I just got a text message from Matt Dunstone, who was enjoying our weather talk and was saying that he was reminded of why he moved west, all of our weather talk. We welcome him with open arms to our very temperate climate here in British Columbia.
Maddie, of course, won this event in 2013 at Fort McMurray and won it again in 2016 at Stratford, Ontario.
Line's good.
Now living in Kamloops, but
take a look.
represented Manitoba at those two Canadian juniors and is representing Saskatchewan. So
Line's good.
a citizen of the world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yes, line.
I think he has to win Saskatchewan first before we can say that he represents it. But
Jess. Whoa. Okay.
It's not going to get the job done, I don't think.
no, just a smidge heavy from Kira Brunton, unfortunately. And again, that's one of those. She had to be there. You know, you don't want to come light there ever. But if she was just maybe 2 or 3 feet lighter, it allows the sweepers to get on it and control that curl and get it right on top of that Nova Scotia stone. Big opportunity for Taylor here. If she can make a hit and a little flop, Northern Ontario is in a world of hurt.
Just half.
Hack weight, counterclockwise rotation, her out turn. Like you said, John, a chance to really apply some pressure.
Yep. Whoa! Close! Curl! Hard! You got it! Right on! Hard! Anywhere!
It's a good shot. If that rolls 2 inches further, Kira Brunton has no shot. As it stands, she can probably, she can get rid of 2 of them fairly easily. The problem is that there's no way she can get rid of all 3. So she's probably thinking about sticking right there, but we'll listen in.
Unless you think we can get here or draw. That's pretty tough. I think we have to put in those. Might spin out to 8 foot. Yeah, I think we have to. Okay.
Nose hit, and you leave it there. It makes the deuce tough for Nova Scotia,
Very
if nothing
tough.
else.
Well, we heard them talk about what you were saying, Al, if they ever wanted to try that in-turn draw, but I agree. I just think it's too tough, and especially now you're trying to hit such a small spot, and if you miss it, it's game over. So at least this way for Kira, you make the nose, you get 2 of them gone. Very tough shot for Taylor to get her deuce, and then you go into the 10th and you're only down 2.
Yeah, I don't know if that rock at the back of the button will spin out either. It could, but you're shaking your head no. So I will say no.
I'd be pretty surprised, but if she throws a real heater.
Whoa!
That's going to have to curl a ton, though. And you see the result when it was wide, and now it is an open draw for 3 for Nova Scotia here in the 9th end.
Yeah, a lot of these, a lot of junior curlers especially. Of course, some senior curlers do too, but a lot of the junior curlers will add an extension to give their weight, to give it the peel weight. And you could see Kira added that extension there, and she hasn't thrown a peel all game. And like we said, very release sensitive. So when she went to let it go, she gave it that extension and just pushed it out that hair, and it just hung there. And with that weight, it's just not going to come back.
The two Kates are on this right away.
Yeah, you gotta go.
Trying to drag it in there. They've got two in the bank, and see if they can get the three. That might be good, John. Spin off, and just like that.
Good call from Lindsay Burgess. Looked like out of Taylor Stevens' hand, she was a little tight, and so Lindsay knew that if they stayed on it, it could spin in like that for three, and it did.
I'm okay with that. I think you don't like top four. We'll go top four.
And there it is, the three on the board for Nova Scotia, and they will take an 8-4 lead into this 10th. And unless something miraculous happens, final end. Great effort tonight by Nova Scotia. And I think a lot of it, too, is you've mentioned this word, mature. They made some mature decisions out there. And I think back to that ninth end and with some guidance from their coach, Mary Matatal, just to take their lumps, give up that steal in the eighth end, pardon me, and take the hammer into the ninth. And it paid off with a big three.
Yeah, one thing that stuck out to me, too, about that exchange, and, you know, we talked to Mary before the game, and she was talking about how she had a great relationship with this team, and all the girls have a great relationship with each other, and they're a really tight team. And I think there was one thing I really liked is that there was simply no pushback from the team when Mary suggested that. You know, she came out, she was complimentary of Kira, said, hey, listen, she made a great shot. We got to take our lumps here. And there was really no, you know, it's a measure of pride. You never want to be a skip throwing your last one into the boards and conceding a point. But the girls didn't seem concerned about that. And that was Mary's recommendation. They latched onto it right away. There was almost no argument. And obviously it paid off as they had a fantastic ninth end and are now in a pretty comfortable spot, we would say.
So a couple throw-throughs being called.
My favorite shot.
Yep, and the best cleaned shot in curling, too.
Always, yep.
That broom will not leave the ice. On a draw to the forefoot, sometimes it leaves the ice.
True. We did have one time I was throwing a rock through, and it actually picked so severely that it almost made it in the house. We got it through, but it picked about halfway down the sheet, and the boys had to pound it through the house. So it is possible. Pretty rare that you would get a pick and it would end up in the house, but it is possible.
Which would lead to a great story if it stayed in. How'd you get a deuce? Well, my throw-through picked.
I mean,
that set it up.
Doesn't sound like a great story to me.
It had potential, though. Two corner guards put up by Northern Ontario.
Yeah, finishing off a really nice game from Jessica Leonard.
And the countdown is on for the number of rocks left in play. And the third throw through for Nova Scotia. Just no good things really can happen by putting yellow rocks into play right now.
Yeah, not up 4, certainly. I think if you're up 3, you maybe have a discussion about putting that last rock that Kate just threw through. You maybe talk about putting that one somewhere in the house, but when you're up 4, it's pretty much a no-brainer. If you make all your shots up 4, you're going to win the game. So throwing the first 3 through, easy call. And now it's just up to Nova Scotia to peel this game out.
Just a reminder, we'll have 3 games tomorrow here at the George Preston Recreation Center. All times Pacific, 9 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. And for you Easterners who don't want to do the math, that is noon Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern, and 10 p.m. Eastern here at the New Holland Canadian Juniors. 2 men's games to start the day here on Sheet D. Nova Scotia's Graham Weagle against Northern Ontario's Jacob Horgan, the 2017 and 2018 gold medalists at the under-18 championships going head-to-head in that game. Then New Brunswick's Liam Marine against the Manitoba champions. And so many Manitoba teams, you got to keep track of them. Of course, that is the Manitoba champions skipped by Brett Walter. And then in the night game, John, when you'll be back on the air, we'll have another women's game. And our first look at the Mackenzie Zacharias team from Manitoba with another Burgess, Carly Burgess on that team, taking on Noemi Gauthier of Quebec.
Wonderful. I love it. Manitoba, Quebec should be a barn burner.
And that Quebec team has some experience. Members were played in the gold medal game at the 2018 Canadian Juniors in Shawinigan, losing that final in 2018 to Caitlin Jones of Nova Scotia.
Now playing out of Ontario, I believe, Caitlin Jones.
That's correct, yeah. She's got a new women's team playing there. One of your interview subjects, I believe, on the Magical Question Fun Time.
She was, yeah. That's one of the things that the winning skips here get to look forward to, an interview with me.
Or dread, as the case may be.
Well,
we like to focus on the positives here.
That's absolutely right.
YouTube.com/curlingcanada.
I won't dread it, but they might. That's a good point.
So no guards out front, and no Northern Ontario has got to make all of their stones count now.
Yeah, should be just 2 more shots for Nova Scotia and handshakes.
We'll be going off the air before the games are complete, but a reminder that you can get the final updates for tonight's games at curling.ca/scoreboard. That's curling.ca/scoreboard. All the scores, all the stats from the 2020 New Holland Canadian Juniors here in the township of Langley, BC.
What? And this way.
One more draw coming from Northern Ontario. Get it in the paint. And Lindsay Burgess.
Out there.
Oh, pardon me. It will
Keep her broom down.
the Nova Scotia skip getting the chance to finish this off.
Keep her broom down.
Keep a broom down. Yes, please. And, of course, Taylor Stevens will get the chance to throw the hit that prompts the handshakes here.
Yeah, big, you got the stats up there, and I do think it is a story of percentages this game. We've got Taylor Stevens sitting at a very healthy 86%, and Kira Brunton struggling a little at 59. I think 59 is a little harsh only because she just had some big misses. I think she also had some pretty big makes in this game, but just a couple shots that got away from her that leading to that kind of low score, and Taylor's made some fantastic shots to earn points for her team, and it's very fitting that she will likely be throwing the last rock of this game right now.
Yeah, clean. Yep. Clean, 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 clean. Just clean.
And there it is, John.
That'll do it.
X is on the scoreboard. It will be an 8-4 final. Nova Scotia defeating Northern Ontario. Nova Scotia improving to 2-0.
Good game. Good luck.
Northern Ontario dropping to 0-2. So a reminder, we will be back here tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time for more action from the 2020 New Holland Canadian Juniors. John Cullen, thank you for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night back here at the Canadian Juniors. Good night, everyone.